identify what form I have. This happens to be form 1. Okay, and so I'll split it into its 2 different inequalities. So I'll have one where I have 4x plus 8 is greater than 24. And the other one will be that 4x plus 8 is less than negative 24. What questions do you guys have about what we've done so far? Okay, so first we did step 1, which was isolating our absolute value. We identified this as form 1. We split it into our 2 different inequalities, flip the inequality and flip the sign. The next step is to solve for x. So I need to subtract 8 from both sides of both equations, because both of them have a plus 8. Okay. 24 minus 8 should give me 16. And then negative 24 minus 8 should give me negative 32. What questions do you guys have so far? Okay, and the last step to isolate x is to divide by 4 on both sides. So I'm going to have x is greater than 16 over 4, it's just 4. And then x is less than negative 32 over 4 should give me negative 8. Okay, so these are both solutions, and I want to put these on my number line so I can see and I can visualize where these are. Negative 8 is the smaller value, so I'm going to put it on the left-hand side. 4 is the bigger value, so I'm going to put that on the right-hand side. And I'm going to box these in with 2 different colors so that you guys can see where I plotted each of these inequalities. So for the greater than 4, it's strictly greater than, so I have to have an open circle at 4. And it's bigger than, so I need to move my arrow to the right. Similarly, for my negative 8, I'm going to have an open circle. And I have to move my arrow to the left because its value is less than negative 8. Okay, so those are my solutions. What questions do you guys have about example 2? Okay, if there are no questions, we're going to move on to example 3. Example 3 is different. So this one we really need to pay attention to, okay? So any last questions on example 2 before we move to example 3? Okay. We're going to move up to example 3. In example 3, I'm going to have the absolute value of 4 minus 2x. So I flip where I have my x, but that's okay. Plus 3 is less than or equal to 25. Okay, so step 1 is isolating the absolute value. So I need to get the absolute value by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. 4 minus 2x is less than or equal to 22. Then I need to identify which form it is. This is less than or equal to. Less than or equal to is form 4. So I'm going to split it into my 2 inequalities based on my information from form 4. So I'm going to have 4 minus 2x is less than or equal to 22. Then I'm going to flip the sign and make this negative and have 4 minus 2x is greater than or equal to negative 22. Okay, so I have my two possible inequalities. The next step is to solve. I could try to divide by -2 right off the bat, and that would be fine because everything is even. But I think it's a little nicer just to get rid of my constants first. So since this 4 is positive in both of my inequalities, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Ooh, my 4's look really bad. Sorry. So these cancel, and I'm left with -2x. 22 minus 4 should give me positive 18. And then these cancel. I'm left with my -2x. And -22 minus 4 should give me -26. Now, can somebody tell me what my next step is going to be?
Divide by -2.
Perfect. So we're going to divide by -2. Thank you. And when we divide by a negative, does anybody remember what happens with inequalities when we divide by a negative? Okay, so if you don't remember, we flip the sign when we divide by a negative. So x is going to be greater than or equal to -9. And x is going to be less than or equal to positive 13. I'm going to highlight this in a different color, and we're going to write, so I'm going to write, we divided by -2, and we flip the sign of each of these. Okay, so I'm going to write this at the bottom. So when we divide by a negative, we flip our inequality. Okay, we do this for either equation. Okay, so that's what we did in the pink there. I'm going to highlight this statement in pink to try to get you to remember that that's what happened here. We divided by a negative number, so we flipped our inequality. So now I'm going to write this out on a number line so we can see what our answer range is going to actually look like. So -9 is the smaller number, positive 13 is the bigger number. I'm going to do it just like we did the others, if I can find my pins. Okay, so we have 13, and it's going to be a closed circle. And we want values less than or equal to. And we have -9. This is also going to be a closed circle. We have values bigger than or equal to. So this whole section, I guess I could like color that in purple or something, is going to be our answer. Anything between -9 and 13 will be our answer. Okay. What questions do you guys have about this particular example? Okay, if there are no questions, we have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to wrap us up with example 4 because example 4 is important. Okay, in example 4, if we had something like the absolute value of 3x is less than or equal to -9, is this possible? I have -9.
No.
No, why is it not possible?
Because it's a negative outside.
Yeah, an absolute value is positive, but this is negative. A positive value can never be less than or equal to a negative value. So this answer would be no solutions. Okay. Absolute values is positive. So it can never be less than or equal to a negative. Okay, but we could switch this around. What about the absolute value of 3x is greater than or equal to -9? Could this work? So the absolute value of 3x is greater than or equal to -9. Does this work? Okay, so the answer is yes. This does work. Positive values are always going to be bigger than negative values. So are always bigger than negatives. Okay, so the answer in this case is going to be all real numbers, which is represented by this double barred R. So it's the set of all real numbers. And what this means is that I can put any value I want in for x, and this statement will be true. It will always be bigger than -9. Okay, so that's all that means. All right, so that completes our notes for today. I will scan this document and put it up because the last document was for, it was what I wrote out for my Math 3, and there are some mistakes in it. I fixed all the mistakes in the document, so if you copy those down, you shouldn't have an issue at all. But I'll put these up anyway because I did some different coloring and highlighting that was fun. I will also post a recording, and then your work for today is a practice quiz for your classwork, and then your homework is written out like normal. Do you guys have questions before you head out? Okay, if there are no questions, you guys are free to leave. If you do have questions, feel free to stay for a minute and ask them. But thank you guys. You had a good class today. I'll talk to you later.